You probably have a friend who always cancels plans. You check your phone, and it's another, I'm tired, maybe next time text. At some point, you start thinking they just don't want to see you, but in reality, they're protecting something. If you're someone who actually gets more excited about a Saturday night in pajamas than a Saturday night out, welcome. You are about to feel very seen. In this video, we will break down the psychology behind people who love staying home and why what looks like disinterest is actually something completely different. Let's start at the beginning, because this isn't just about introversion. That's the label everyone reaches for first, and it's only half the picture. Yes, introverts recharge in solitude rather than in social environments. Their nervous systems treat stimulation differently. What energizes an extrovert? The noise, the movement, the unpredictability of other humans genuinely depletes someone wired the other way. It's not a choice, it's closer to biology. But here's what most people skip over: there's an entire category beyond introversion. Researchers call it high environmental sensitivity, and it affects roughly 15 to 20% of the population. These are people whose nervous systems process sensory and emotional information more deeply than average. They're not broken. They're actually processing more of the world than most people do. They just need somewhere quiet to put it all. Think about what home actually provides for someone like that. You control the sound, you control the lighting, you control who has access to your energy and when. Nobody's going to ask you to explain yourself. Nobody's going to make an offhand comment you'll spend 3 hours replaying later. The temperature is what you set it to. The silence is exactly as loud as you need it to be. For highly sensitive people, that's not comfort, that's survival infrastructure. There's also something psychologists call restoration theory, and it changes the way you think about the whole conversation. The basic idea is that attention, the kind you use to navigate social environments, make small talk, read rooms, manage impressions, is a finite resource. You use it up, and when it's gone, your capacity to think clearly, to regulate your emotions, to just function like a person, all of it degrades. You need to restore it. For some people, that restoration happens anywhere. They grab coffee with a friend and feel genuinely renewed. For others, the only place that actually works is somewhere without demands, somewhere where the input is controlled and chosen, somewhere that doesn't ask anything of them. Home is a restorative environment, and for a significant portion of the population, it's the only one that actually works. But here's where it gets more interesting, because this isn't just about recovering from social exhaustion. People who genuinely love being home often have something you don't expect: a rich internal world that doesn't need external stimulation to stay interesting. There's a concept in psychology called autotelic experience, developed by researcher Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. It refers to activities that are rewarding in themselves, not because of some external payoff. People who are highly autotelic can generate meaning and engagement from the inside out. They don't need the party to feel something. They can feel something reading a book, following a thought, rearranging their kitchen, watching the light move across the floor at 4 in the afternoon. Studies consistently show that people who prefer solitude score higher in creativity, introspection, and complex problem solving. Not because staying home makes you smarter, but because when you're not constantly performing, not managing social dynamics, not half present in your own thoughts, you actually get to think deeply without interruption. Some of the most significant ideas in human history were born in quiet rooms. That's not a coincidence. Now, we have to talk about the harder part, because not everyone who loves staying home is doing it from a place of fullness. For some people, the walls of home don't feel like shelter. They feel like the only safe distance between themselves and a world that's taught them to be afraid. Social anxiety, depression, past experiences that rewired what going outside means emotionally. For those people, home isn't a recharge station, it's a hiding place, and there's an important distinction there. Ask yourself honestly, when you stay in, do you feel restored? Or do you feel like you avoided something? Is the quiet peaceful, or is it just less painful than the alternative? Because one of those is a preference, the other is a cage, and the door opens inward. If it's the second thing, that's worth paying attention to. Not because there's anything wrong with needing safety, but because sometimes what feels like protection is actually a wall that's keeping out the good things too. But for the people who stay home from genuine preference, from a place of knowing exactly what they need, from having learned that their own company is actually worth something, here's what researchers keep finding. They tend to have clearer personal values. Because when you're not constantly calibrating yourself against a room full of people, you actually know what you think. They tend to have higher self-awareness for the same reason. They tend to form fewer, deeper relationships rather than wide, shallow networks. And they tend to report higher life satisfaction when they stop trying to want what they've been told they should want. There's also something worth naming about modern culture specifically. We live in an era that has essentially monetized extroversion. The whole hustle and network and be seen and document your life aesthetic is built on the assumption that visibility equals value, that being out there is the goal, that presence in the world means presence in other people's spaces, loudly and frequently. That assumption has a cost, where the plan for the evening is the absence of plans, where the highlight of the day is a long shower and a meal they made themselves, and a thought they followed all the way to the end without interruption. That's real and valid too. It just doesn't get the same cultural airtime. Here's what the research keeps circling back to. The happiest people aren't the most social ones. They're the ones who have the clearest understanding of what actually restores them and the willingness to protect that, whether that's a dinner party or a door closed on the rest of the world for one more quiet, ordinary, deeply personal evening. The goal was never to be around the most people. The goal was to be present in your own life, and sometimes the most radical thing you can do is stay home. If this hits somewhere real, subscribe. I've got more videos lined up that I think are going to find you exactly when you need them. I'll see you in the next one.